You have heard of the planet where it rains glass, the lava worlds, the furnaces where iron falls out of the sky. They are not the scariest. The scariest planets are the ones you will never see coming. Look up on a clear night. Every point of light out there is a sun, and around those suns, planets. That is the picture all of us were handed. And it is wrong, not by a little, but by a factor large enough to change what this galaxy actually is. A 9-year survey run by NASA and Osaka University, published in 2023, produced an estimate. For every star in the Milky Way, there may be roughly 20 planets that belong to no star at all. Most worlds in this galaxy have no sky, no day, no sunrise ever in their entire history. Start with the ones you came for because they have earned the reputation. 63 light-years from here, there is a world called HD 189,733b, and from a distance, it is a beautiful deep cobalt blue. That color is not water. It comes from silicate particles suspended in the atmosphere scattering blue light the way our own sky does. Except these particles are molten rock, and the air holding them runs past 1,000 degrees Celsius. Then there is the wind. It has been clocked at up to 5,400 miles per hour, roughly 2 kilometers every second, about 7 times the speed of sound. Take glassy silicate droplets, put them in air that hot, and drive them sideways at 2 kilometers a second, and you get the thing that planet is famous for. Rain almost certainly made of glass, traveling nearly horizontal fast enough to strip anything it touches. Then there is WESP 76b. The side facing its star sits near 2,400 degrees Celsius, hot enough that iron does not melt, it boils. An instrument called espresso detected that iron vapor directly. It drifts to the cooler night side, condenses, and falls as liquid metal. And K2 141b may be the strangest of the three. Beneath its atmosphere sits a magma ocean estimated at 100 kilometers deep. Winds run supersonic, near 5,000 kilometers an hour. And the atmosphere itself is vaporized rock, which blows downwind, cools, and falls back into the magma as stone, at least according to the 2020 model that first predicted it. Glass, iron, stone, all of it falling out of the sky. And every one of these worlds, for all its violence, has one thing in common: it burns. It glows. You could point a telescope at it and see it. The scariest planets do none of that. And to understand why, you have to meet the one that sits right on the edge of visible and gone. Its name is TRES-2b, and it is the darkest planet we have ever measured. It reflects less than 1% of the light that reaches it. Darker than coal, darker than black paint, darker than anything you could hold in your hand. That is not a model. It is a Kepler measurement from 2011, a direct read of how little comes back. And even TRES-2b glows, faintly a dull red from its own heat. There are worlds out there that light does not travel to at all. The survey behind that 20-to-1 estimate is called MOA, and it took 9 years of staring at the crowded center of our galaxy. What it found was this: free-floating planets appear to outnumber the ones held in orbit by something like 6-to-1. Scale that across the Milky Way, and the count runs into the trillions. Trillions of worlds drifting between the stars attached to nothing. That number is an estimate, not a head count. A pattern in the data extrapolated across a galaxy. It could move. Nothing in the data moves it back towards zero. And here is why it is so hard to pin down. The way we find these things is close to absurd. A rogue planet emits no light of its own once it is cooled. It reflects none, because there is nothing nearby to reflect. It has no star to dim as it passes in front, no star to tug on, no orbit to trace. Every major technique astronomers built over the last 30 years assumes there is a sun in the picture. Take the sun away, and every one of them returns nothing. There is exactly one method that still works. It is called microlensing, and it depends on an accident. When a rogue planet drifts precisely between us and a distant background star, its gravity bends that star's light and focuses it slightly toward us. For a few hours, sometimes less, the background star appears to brighten, then fades back. We never see the planet. We see the star behind it flicker. We hunt these worlds by watching for shadows that make things brighter. And it happens once. The geometry is a coincidence of 3 moving objects lining up across thousands of light years, and it does not recur. Whatever passed in front of that star has already moved on into the dark, and no telescope now or in any future we can plan will get a second look at it. Which means we can tell you roughly how many are out there, but almost nothing about any single one. The trillions are a statistic assembled from flickers. Quick thing: if this is the kind of video you want more of, subscribe. It costs you a second and it tells us to keep making them. And drop a comment: would you rather live on a lava world or a dark one? Now, how does a planet lose its sun in the first place? This part is settled. It is not a theory. A young solar system is not the calm clockwork you see in diagrams. It is a brawl. Dozens of forming bodies all pulling on one another, orbits crossing and destabilizing for millions of years. Gravity in a crowded system is not gentle. It is a series of near misses, and every near miss transfers energy. When a small planet passes too close to a gas giant, the giant wins. It does not collide with the smaller world. It slings it, hands it enough velocity to break free of the star entirely, on a path that never comes back. One encounter, a few hours of geometry, and a planet that had a sun for 1,000,000 years has one no longer. Our own system almost certainly played this out. Simulations of the early solar system indicate it probably ejected worlds of its own during that chaos. Planets that formed alongside Earth, out of the same disk, from the same dust, thrown out before anything here had crawled out of the water. They did not die. Ejection is not destruction. A planet loses its orbit, not its existence. It keeps its mass, its core, its internal heat, its geology. It simply stops belonging to anything. Somewhere in the dark between the stars, there are probably worlds that were born into our family and no longer carry any record of it. So picture actually standing on one. The sky is not black the way a night on Earth is black. Night here is temporary. The planet turns, and dawn is already on its way. Out there, nothing is on its way. There's no horizon that will ever brighten. The stars are up there, the same stars we see, and they deliver no measurable warmth to the ground. Nothing on that surface has ever cast a shadow from sunlight, and it is not only light that goes missing. Every cycle we live by goes with it. There are no seasons, because seasons come from a planet's tilt relative to its star. There is no tide from a sun. There is no year, because there's nothing to orbit. Even day and night stop meaning anything. The world still spins, but it turns the same darkness toward the same emptiness, over and over, forever. The surface freezes toward absolute zero and stays there. Any atmosphere that survived the ejection eventually cools past its own condensation point and falls, and the world ends up wearing its former sky as frost on the ground. There is one exception, and it is only a possibility from the models. A large enough planet holds on to its internal heat for a very long time, and radioactive decay in its core keeps making more. Under a thick enough shell of ice, that heat could in principle sustain liquid water for billions of years. An ocean sealed in permanent darkness with no way in and no way out. Nothing we have found, just something the physics allows. Try to sit with the surface version instead. A world where you could keep a clock running and it would tell you the hour perfectly, forever, and never once mean morning. Time passes there. Nothing marks it. They are not all abstractions. A few of them have names. In 2013, the Pan-STARRS survey in Hawaii identified an object cataloged as PSO J318, 522. It has a planetary mass. It belongs to a young collection of stars known as the Beta Pictoris Moving Group, which is how we know roughly how old it is. And it sits about 80 light-years from here, orbiting nothing at all. It is one of the closest known rogue worlds, though not the closest one. It is the closest one we happen to catch. The only reason we can study it is that it is young. It still glows faintly with leftover heat from its own formation, which puts it just barely within reach of our instruments. Measurements suggest thick clouds and violent shifting weather in its atmosphere, storms turning over on a world with no sun to drive them. Hold both of those facts at once. 80 light-years is essentially next door on a galactic scale, and we only have it because it was still warm, and because we happened to be looking. The old ones, the cold ones, the ones that stopped glowing 1,000,000,000 years ago, are invisible to every method we have. No survey finds those. No telescope currently being built finds those. The trillions are not hiding. They simply give off nothing to find. Which brings us back to the promise we started with. Microlensing only works in one direction. It needs a dense field of background stars to shine through, which is why the surveys point at the crowded core of the galaxy thousands of light-years away. It is superb at counting distant objects and useless for finding nearby ones. There is nothing behind a close rogue planet for it to lens. So consider what that means. A cold, dark, Earth-sized world drifting a few light-years from here would emit nothing we could detect. It would reflect nothing. It would transit no star from our angle. It would tug on nothing we are watching. And it would sit far too near for the one method that finds these objects to work at all. We are not saying anything is coming. Nothing in the data says that, and we are not going to invent it. We are saying something narrower and stranger. The nearest planet to Earth is a thing we assume we know. It may not be around any star in our catalogs, it may be a dark world in the space between, and our instruments are built in a way that guarantees we would walk right past it. In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope looked into the Orion Nebula and appeared to find something no theory could explain. The astronomers Samuel Pearson and Mark McCaughrean reported hundreds of candidate free-floating objects in the trapezium cluster, and roughly 40 of them seemed to come in pairs, two planetary mass bodies orbiting each other with no star anywhere, separated by distances between 28 and 384 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. They were nicknamed JWST. A lone planet is strange enough. Two lone planets holding on to each other should not happen at all. Ejection is violent and random. It does not fling two worlds out of a system together and leave them bound. And they cannot easily form that way either. The pairs are too light and too far apart to have collapsed out of gas on their own. No formation model produced them. For about a year, it was the best mystery in the field. Then another astronomer, Kevin Luhman, checked the work. In papers published in 2024 and 2025, he argued that a large share of these objects may not be planets at all. They may be background stars, far behind the nebula, their light reddened and dimmed by the dust in between until they wear the appearance of something much smaller and much closer. Of the pairs examined spectroscopically, 7 out of 40 supported his doubt. By that analysis, roughly one promising pair survives, and it is not the Jupiter mass object the story needed. The debate is still running, and that is the part worth sitting with. We are hunting objects that emit nothing, with a method that fires once and never again at the outer edge of what our instruments can resolve. Sometimes what comes back is a world. Sometimes it is a ghost. A star so distant and so buried in dust that it wore the shape of a planet for a year and a half. There is a telescope coming that changes the arithmetic. The Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is scheduled to launch by May 2027, and it is built precisely for this, monitoring millions of stars at once, waiting for the flickers. NASA's projection is that Roman could detect hundreds of new rogue worlds, including something on the order of 400 with roughly the mass of Earth. 400 Earths, no suns, found by watching other stars blink. So change where you are standing. We describe interstellar space as empty, the void between the stars, the nothing you cross to get anywhere. Based on the best estimate we have, that is backwards. The space between the stars may hold more worlds than the space around them. More planets drift out there in the dark than circle all the light in the sky. The galaxy is not a scattering of solar systems separated by emptiness. It is an ocean of unlit worlds, with the occasional star burning somewhere inside it. And the nearest planet to Earth that no one has ever seen is out there right now. Cold, silent, holding its own heat, under a sky full of stars it will never belong to. It has been traveling since before the sun finished forming. Nothing on it has ever seen a sunrise. If you want to see more videos like this, click the video on screen now and make sure to subscribe.